everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of 31 Days of Indie Horror. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got two awesome guests who've never even met, and they're here for the first time together. But I think both of you guys have been on 31 Days of Indie Horror. I know you have, Joe. I'm thinking,
Yeah.
Cameron, were you on last year?
Last year.
Were you?
I'm pretty sure I was. I don't remember what we reviewed.
I don't remember what we reviewed either, but
I think it was the Man-Eater series I was on.
Oh, okay, but you weren't on 31 Days. Okay, cool. We'll have to get you back for another Man-Eaters episode. That'll be fun. But anyway, so welcome back, guys, to the shows. First of all, we got Joe Gonsalves. How you doing, Joe?
I am great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. Like, we're excited. And we've got Cameron Scott. How are you doing, Cameron?
I'm doing fantabulous, man. Looking forward to it.
And so I always kind of bother Cameron a lot with coming on the episodes that have full moon, even though he talks to death about full moon on his own show called Howl at the Full Moon. And then
I never tire of it. Never get tired of it.
You said you actually did talk about this one before, right?
Yeah, we did it about a year ago. It was actually part of an appreciation month thing that we were doing just on killer wheels, killer cars, sentient killer vehicles. But I had to do a full moon movie, so Murdercycle was right for the picking.
Perfect. So also, just so everybody knows, we're doing the stinkometer. If everybody knows what the stinkometer scale is, like 1 to 10, 10 being stinky and 1 being good. So just think of that, before we end it, so that you guys can give us your ratings on that.
Okay, so it's the stinkiest and 1 is the least.
Yes, 10 is stinky and 1 is the least. Yep.
Okay.
All right, you got it. It's pretty simple. It's just backwards generally, except I guess 10 would be the stinkiest, kind of thing. What's the stinkiest movie? So we're gonna we'll start it off talking about Murdercycle. Murdercycle is a full moon movie that I guess was produced by J.R. Bookwalter, I believe, right? If I'm correct. It was about that time period of did they shoot this? I felt like they shot this on like DV or something.
I think this was shot on mini DV. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it looked pretty low budgie. What would you think, Joe?
It reminded me of I want to say late Sunday afternoon, like maybe 3 or 4 Sunday afternoon, when they would just show a random movie on basic television.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was like they just threw something in the slot because they had nothing better to put in there.
So did you find it a little bit more boring, in that aspect?
Oh, yeah, it was kind of boring. I laughed at some of it because they used like the dinosaur sound.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? Like they use it in the dinosaur films, like
a roar.
Yeah, those generic tiger lion roars that they use for everything.
Yeah, it's like a backward. They do it backwards though, so it's almost kind of like a screech, like a roaring screech kind of sound. I was laughing. I was like, "Oh my god, is this what we're doing now?"
Yeah, this was not a high point in full moon history. This was somewhat of a low point, but it's still fun.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just not good.
It's definitely not good. I was trying to see. I know I had done I'm
waiting for the Power Rangers to jump out at some point. So
okay, it was very Power Ranger-y. But
it was very PG-13. It wasn't very R-rated. Those soldiers were spending rounds like they were nickels and not like hitting anything.
Well, you might be
action.
You might be right with something, Joe, because this is about the time made for TV movies were like a big thing, really, too. So maybe Full Moon was trying to sort of get into that market, and so they wanted movies that were more PG-13 kind of thing, that would be easier to sell, like no sex, no nudity, but lots of because Full Moon is known for like lots of raunchy nudity and everything. This is a tamer movie for like Full Moon standards, for sure. So I wanted to talk about this real quick. I don't know if you guys caught this or not, but every character is named after a Marvel creator, writer, or artist. Did you know that, guys? Did you know that,
yeah.
Cameron? Okay.
Yeah, I know. Well, there's even a couple of times where they're talking about, comic books and, Stan Lee and DC and stuff like that.
Fantastic. Well, they were talking about mainly about Marvel. They went, it was mainly DC, Marvel.
Mostly Marvel. I mean, there's a guy named Kirby, for crying out loud, and Professor or Dr. Lee. And I mean, like, that's a little on the nose, I think.
Yeah, Lee. You didn't catch that at all?
I mean, I remember the part where he's talking about like I would be like Mr. So-and-so or whatever from Fantastic Four. Like I caught that, but I didn't catch on to the other stuff. So
okay, I'm gonna go through it right now because this is all I could find. I don't know if there's more, honestly, that I could find, but I found this. Lee, it was Dr. Lee or whatever, was Stan Lee. Sergeant Kirby is Jack Kirby. Ditko is Steve Ditko. Buscema is John Buscema. He's an artist. Coletto is Vince Coletto. He's an artist. Frazzetto is Frank Frazzetto, an artist. Sinnott is actually Joe Sinnott. I guess it's Sinnott. Adams, there is a John and a Scott Adams, so I'm not sure which one that was referring to. General Hubert may be a reference to Hubert, which was part of the Fantastic Four. And Private Rosetta mentions the Fantastic Four. So this was obviously very inspired by the comic. So like he mentions the Fantastic Four saying like, which one would we be? And he was like, I'd be Mr. Fantastic. And there's like a running joke of like, what are you going to do, Mr. Fantastic? So I love that. But as I went on, I kept going, okay, this is getting a little bit annoying, like one or two references is fun, but after a while, it's like, okay, so every character is named after a Marvel character, it's a little annoying.
After like the 8th reference, it's like they're cramming it down your throat. It's like a little old after a while.
Yeah.
But I appreciated what they were aiming for. It was a little heavy-handed.
I agree. But I liked it. I mean, like I didn't mind that stuff because I'm a Marvel fan. So like it was kind of cute to look back and go, oh my God, that's kind of funny. After a while, yeah. I mean, but it was obviously supposed to be also kind of showing off that this is sort of a superhero movie in a way, or super villain movie, I guess, more so.
It's like a super villain origin story. There's really no superhero in it. You know what I mean? In essence, there's no superhero, but it's like a super villain. It's like the Joker, but on a much lesser of a scale.
Yeah,
they left the ending open. Thank God they just left it there.
They did. They left it open so that they could make a Murdercycle too, if it did well enough, which I'm guessing it didn't.
I like the Murdercycle itself, the actual like physical Murdercycle. I thought it was a neat prop. It was a neat vehicle, but that's really the only standout. The standout character is the Murdercycle and the Murdercycle alien, I guess. Everybody else was just disposable. They were like G.I. Joes. They were just kind of getting blown up and thrown in every direction, like bad guys in an A-Team movie.
Yeah, it almost felt like their characters were almost pointless. It was just like they're just running around just to get back to the alien.
Right.
Right.
And then they're running around just to get back to the alien. It's like, oh my God.
So before I had picked this movie originally, I kept thinking it was horror, but it's really not. I mean, there's no real horror at all in it, even though this is 31 Days of Indie Horror. This is more sci-fi thriller kind of, not even thriller, just more sci-fi, Yeah,
it's sci-fi with a lot of action. A lot, like I said, I keep throwing that term around, A-Team action. There's a lot of people shooting at things that nobody ever gets hit with any blood squibs. people kind of get blown up and get tossed around and whatnot. And, you know, is those safe explosions where somebody gets tossed 30 feet in the air and then they got that complimentary cut above the eyebrow.
Just the one.
Yeah, just the one. And if somebody else has a cut on the eyebrow, they got it on the opposite eyebrow.
So I looked this up. Production on the film actually dates back to the 1980s when producer Charles Band was running his Empire Pictures studio in Italy. The film was originally called Battle Bikes, and Michael Miner of RoboCop fame was set to direct and write the film. Production fell through, but the artwork was later reused for this movie. So I would have loved to see Battle Bikes, because I feel like there would have been more than one Murdercycle, you know, like that would have been fun, you know. But it seemed like they could only afford one Murdercycle in this movie.
I guess it looked like a Pinterest DIY fail, but it kind of worked. So
I was very impressed with the transition from the regular motorcycle to the Murdercycle. When that first happens, it looked really cool, like a robot thing, you know, where just kind of all turns. I thought that was neat. But aside from that, it's kind of, you know, I don't know.
It's just very tame. I felt like, you know, like you said earlier, John, Full Moon is usually known for being kind of risque, either, you know, having crazy monsters or blood or nudity and craziness and just all types of crazy things going on. This felt very safe. It felt very PG. And I think if they would have done it in the 80s at Empire, it probably would have been a little bit more, you know, on the edge.
You know who would have had more fun with this would have been Troma. Could you imagine what Troma would have done with Murdercycle? You know,
if Troma would have done this, then the Murdercycle would have had like a mate, and the bikes would have been like doing it. You know, somehow there'd have been a lot more green stuff getting thrown around and getting puked on all over each other.
I agree. I think there would have been a little bit more toxic waste throughout it or whatever, and people having
been a Toxie cameo for sure.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing. Like, it does feel weird for a Full Moon movie, because usually, they are very risque. They're very maybe it was this time period, you know, of films, because maybe they're just trying to do a different market, you know, for the film.
This was part of a sub-label. I'm not sure if you know. I believe it was called Action Extreme. Sub-label of Full Moon. And they only did 2 movies, and you have to forgive me because I don't remember what the second movie was, but this was the first movie of that label, and they did like one more. And I think it was even done by the same director, Tom Calloway.
Well, I'll look that up real quick then. See what that...
I want to say it was called Action Extreme or Action something or other.
Well,
it came up in the film in the credits, didn't it?
Yeah, it came up as Action Extreme as the production company or whatever, the label. But it's looking like the only stuff that this director has done is, he did a TV series apparently called The Amazing Lives of Sea Monkeys. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah.
But he had done Murdercycle in '99, and then he did Broke Sky, Heebie-Jeebies, and Dead Man Rising.
Dead Man Rising
was 90. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
No, Murdercycle was in 1999.
Yes. Yep.
I thought it was way older than that.
Well, it was the look of the film. Like, I think that's what they tried to do too. You know, Full Moon really, just like Troma, they want you to feel like you're still watching an 80s movie, you know, or whatever.
There.
You know, like, but not nowadays, not so much. Nowadays, their stuff is very like the now, you know, like
Resonator series, like that looks really slick. That looks really well done.
Right. Or
look very retro.
Ginger Weed Man, Evil Bong, all those things. Those are like very like today, like they know they're trying to get the teen slash 20s audience of today, but this movie feels like they were trying to throw back to that time period, and they did a good job apparently because they convinced Joe that it was the 80s. So there you go. But yeah, it was
much more 1989 as opposed to 1999.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which, if you remember correctly, I mean, Cameron, they did in the 90s, they did a lot of the stuff like Mandroid and, that stuff. Which,
like the Witch House, I was just going to say the Witch House series was really big around that time.
Yeah. And so this was sort of that time period of like, let's get something out. Let's do something quick. Let's, what can we do? And I guarantee you Charles Band was like looking at those old photos and was like, or drawings or whatever they were, and just were like, let's go fucking make a movie.
Well, if you know anything about Charlie, most of his ideas start with a poster. He'll come up with a title and a poster and put it in front of somebody and tell them, make a movie out of this. Write me a script in 2 weeks, like it's done on the cheap, I mean, this was at the era where it was a couple of years after the end of the Paramount money. Once the Paramount money was gone, they really had no choice but to go cheap.
Like Ghoulies had like the ghoulie coming out of the fucking toilet, yeah, and that was the first poster. That was literally how I think that's how they got their money, for that, is like they had that, and people are like, oh my god, this is great. And originally in the first movie they didn't have that, and then people are like, wait a minute, where's the ghoulie coming out of the toilet? So they had to go and reshoot just one scene of a ghoulie coming out of the toilet just to make everybody happy and to not false advertise. I've talked about this,
and that becomes synonymous with the series. 4 movies deep, and everybody remembers the ghoulie coming out of the toilet.
Yeah, like just like Joe, you remember that, so there you go. Like that's all people probably remember from that movie. I don't like, there's a lot of like these rip-off movies that rip that off too, do the toilet thing too as well, with the character coming out of the toilet or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm kind of tired of it. Like it was good when the Ghoulies did it, but like get your own, unless you're like doing like a parody of the Ghoulies or something. Like I think Chris Seaver, who did we were talking earlier about Terror Bloodfart Lake, he also did a movie called The Dingleberries, which was
I've seen it.
And
unfortunately, I've seen it.
And it was literally like it had a character coming out of the toilet in the cover, like a ghoulie type, puppet kind of character. I don't think I've ever, I own it, and I just don't think I ever got a chance to watch it yet. So maybe I'll do that for Indie Film Cafe someday.
You're not missing much. But it's good for a one-time viewing. I shouldn't say you're not missing much. Watch it once at least, but watch it once and then use it for a coaster.
That's kind of harsh.
Gift at Christmas, like, hey.
The funny thing about Chris Seaver is like he knows what he's doing. Just like Charlie Band knows, if people don't like it, he's probably just like, okay, like it's not their kind of movie.
He's like Ed Wood. He's like, you didn't like it? Worst film you ever saw? Oh, great. My next one will be much better.
And his next movie was not much better, but that's the funny thing about Charles Band himself. He's able to kind of take different, like some people might like one certain movie and then not like almost everybody likes ReAnimator that he produced. I mean, I don't, unless you just don't like horror and don't like, like gothic stuff like that, you might not like it, but it's a pretty great movie. I'm sure Joe loves it.
Oh yeah.
It's a classic.
The Animator.
Yeah. I've actually never seen Bride of the Reanimator or Beyond Reanimator or whatever. I need to do that. It's just like too many movies I need to watch, and I just haven't yet, but I will one day. Mark my words on the show.
Bride is really good. Bride is really, really good.
Well, I really like Brian Usna, who did it. I believe he did that, and he worked really well with Full Moon for years. They did like him and Stuart Gordon did like Dolls and all the other movies. So I would really love to see more of this stuff. I just haven't gotten around to seeing yet.
It's only so many hours in the day.
Well, I mean, and that's another reason why we created an Indie Film Cafe, so I can watch all these movies and have an excuse. If I'm not picking it, Paul's picking it generally. So there you go. But yeah, so that's another thing. And another thing is 31 Days of Indie Horror. I could put anything like of those movies down on 31 Days of Indie Horror and choose that, because they're indie and they're horror, and I have 31 days of it, so I have to fill it up with stuff I probably haven't seen yet, So, but I had seen this movie before. Joe, this was your first time,
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit more, like, what were your thoughts going through your head when you were watching it?
Oh man, I started wondering, like, I don't know if anyone else noticed, but every time there's like someone that has like telepathy, it's always a female. Like, why is there a dude that has telepathy? Like,
it would have been cool, like, if they had like a bunch of people who had like mind things, like a team of people. Yeah. One person could like teleport, one had telepathy, one had, and then they all just kind of work together to fight the evil Murdercycle, who shot lasers at everybody apparently.
Yeah, pew pew pew.
Right? And I was laughing my ass off at that. Like, why isn't every sci-fi movie the aliens know how to like have lasers? And like, why can't we get those things to come out? But like, aliens know how to do that. Like, are aliens that smarter than us?
I think that is the truth, because they're the ones that are coming to us. They're obviously more advanced than us because they made it to Earth, and they're trying to take us over because we're probably archaic. I'm using air quotes here, or archaic, and caveman like. So yeah, we're still using, regular propulsion bullets and shit like that, instead of laser blasts and blasters like in Star Wars, But the thing I noticed with Joe was mentioning earlier was the psychic, the doctor that had premonitions. She would have a premonition 3 seconds before the Murdercycle showed up, like, there's something here, it means it's harm, and then like 2 seconds later it would be right there and just start laser blasting and kill. Her psychic powers were very like limited, like, hey, attack in 3, 2, and here we go.
Yeah, it's like, you couldn't tell us this shit before we left base. Like, this isn't gonna work out, guys. Like, there's gonna be some stuff going down you want no part of. Like, yeah, why was it like every 3 seconds before it was gonna happen?
And I'm like thinking, I hate to say it, but I would not like somebody who was like a mind reader to like be hanging out with me, period, just because like I feel very like because you just don't know when they're just deciding to read your mind, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, she could have been like waiting for the person to like start walking and then just start going,
Yeah, and if you got some random ass thoughts, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how, and I've always wondered about that. Like, how far does a mind reader go? Is a mind reader able to like get into your memories, or just what you're thinking at that particular moment?
That's a good question. They don't really ever explore, her her powers very much, or her, psychic ability.
I think she talks about picking up a rock and she can get some shit from a rock or whatever. It's like,
wait, what? The rock has a mind?
Oh, there was that one part where they're sitting together and they're just kind of like getting to know each other, and she's like telling him about a little bit about her abilities. And she was talking about how like everything has, I'm kind of paraphrasing, has like some kind of an energy imprint on it. And if she like touches it, she can receive from it or some shit. It's like, yeah, so you touch a rock and you can get shit from a rock. So like
Rocks
someone
have visual memory.
Yeah, someone kicked me 3 days ago. Like,
no, I would love for you to like voice a rock, like in a cartoon or something, because you had the perfect voice for it. Somebody kicked me like a few minutes ago. Great.
It sounds pick me up, throw me on a sister, asshole.
I would love that. That would be hilarious. Somebody needs to make a rock cartoon. And not like a rock and roll, but like a rock, Unless maybe it's a rock that wants to like start a rock and roll band. That would be interesting.
Call them the Pet Rocks.
There you go. There's a story there somewhere about it, like a psychic pet rock a rock that has psychic capabilities. There's an idea there somewhere.
Watch out, guys, because I guarantee you, if anybody has one, Disney actually has a psychic who's reading all of our minds and is like, that pet rock movie idea sounds amazing. We should pitch it to, Disney, and Disney will run with it because,
Cyrus to be the lead.
She would, I don't know. I'd watch something with Miley Cyrus's voice. She's got an interesting raspy voice. And
Salak's got a sort of infection.
Which is funny because, like, yeah, she's been like that since she was a kid, Yeah. So it always made me think, was like she smoking cigarettes when she was like 12?
Yeah,
probably.
So like, good God.
Yeah, Ray Cyrus as her father. She was probably smoking cigarettes and gargling with Jack Daniels for breakfast.
Probably. She was breaking his achy breaky heart.
Womp womp.
Oh man. But to get back to Murdercycle, and not the pet rock that got kicked, or her being able to control its, I don't know. Like, I mean, after a while, like, remember those guys kept going, you can't read my mind, you're not allowed. And I'm like, you can't stop her. If she wants to read your mind, she will. Like, just because you say that, you can't evade my. But that dude started actually doing that, right? Like, that dude actually started stop letting her read his mind. Like, he was doing he was talking about other things in his mind or something. You know what I'm talking about?
He was trying to project other thoughts to keep the guy that was like the sleeper cell agent.
Yeah.
What it was, but yeah, he was like, I'm going to prevent you from getting into my mind. It was like, I'm taking a look at you, buddy. I don't think you have those kind of powers, that kind of capability.
Yeah,
I don't think Oscar Mayer song.
That'll be. See, the thing is, I think the thing that really this movie did miss the point on is humor. It didn't have a lot of humor. There's a couple maybe funny bits in it, but really it lacked a lot more of that. I think if it had more humor, it might have been more fun. Like, I mean, how can you take a movie about a killer motorcycle seriously without putting humor into it?
Especially it looks, and the production, and the plot holes.
Well,
yeah, the way the movie was written and the way that the movie was acted and put together, it almost begged to have more humor in it. It's like if they would have taken it to the next level, it was a B movie that was trying to disguise itself as an A-list movie. It's like, okay, we're going to take ourselves serious, and I think that's where it failed.
Well, we talked about that on Indie Film Cafe this year. We did Totem, and that movie is so ridiculously stupid, but they take it seriously. Like, everybody says these things, these lines, they see these creatures that are just ridiculous looking, and they they are really serious about it, you know, and it's so funny. It's so cheesy. I wonder if David Dakota could have directed this movie, you know, well, you know.
If he would have directed it, I think it would have been 10 times better. Because he's, you know what I mean, he's a proficient director. He's a very proficient and very efficient. You know, I think he would have taken this to the next level. I mean, he's, you know, master of his craft.
Well, he also would have had more shirtless guys in it, so Joe probably would have been happy with that. You know, I mean, I don't know. He would have picked. I think, and I hate to say this, but the actors in this movie weren't the greatest, you know, of people or whatever. Like, I don't think there was anybody who went on to claim in, you know, the fame or anything. So I think he would have. He's really good at casting. That's the thing I'll give David Dakota. Is he knows actors who will eventually go on to do big stuff, you know, like he can find that. And it's really weird. Like almost everybody he's worked with in the Full Moon world goes on and does something big with their, you know, at least the main star does something big and with their career. And I think that if anything, that's an amazing accomplishment that David Dakota has. Thomas Calloway, I never really heard of him before, you know, or anything. And still, I've never seen Heebie-Jeebies, though I know of it. You know, I need to check that out at some point. But I think he wasn't the greatest director for this movie, you know,
He wasn't really a very prolific director. I mean, I can't remember how many movies he did. Maybe he did like 6, 7, 8 movies. But he was a cinematographer on I know he did well over 100. I don't know how many, 125, 150, somewhere in and around there. But he, you know, he's still working today, doing, you know, several films a year. You know,
128. God damn, that's a lot.
See, I think that's the one thing where the movie has a strong point. The action and the stunts, they do a lot of slow motion. They do that John Woo kind of slow motion. The action is pretty well choreographed. So I think that's where like his strong point was, but handling actors and dialogue and exposition and plot, as you said, Joe, a lot of plot holes and, you know, plot points that were not tidied up, you know, here. I think, you know, he knew how to direct action and make stuff kind of, you know, again, air quotes, look good, but you know, getting good.
Wow, I'm
just getting good expressions and, you know, and out of his actors, just not a strong suit.
Well, I'm looking at his resume for DPing, and he's DP'd like a ton of movies that I've loved, and I didn't know that he was the DP of them. Including like Cruel Intentions, like I think it was 2. And he did he's done a lot of sequels, but then he also did like, do you guys remember there was a movie called National Lampoon Presents Gold Diggers or something?
Oh God, that was horrible.
he DP'd it, but like I remember it because of Will Friedle from Boy Meets World was in it. And I'm a huge fan of Boy Meets World, so like I watched everything that like all the actors from Boy Meets World were in, and yeah, it was terrible. It was like him and Chris Owen, aka the Shermanator, you know,
Shermanator,
you know, which that's I hate to say, like he's been in so many movies, right? And he will never not be the Shermanator to me. I'm sorry. Like he could be like a Marvel superhero and be like the next Thor or something, you know, and I would be like, that's the fucking Shermanator as Thor. That's awesome. Like that kid will never. I'm sorry, Chris Owen. But you know, that's just what it is. But yeah, dude, that's awesome. Thomas Calloway's done some really like, you know, stuff, like has done a lot, you know, of things I've watched, and maybe they're not the greatest movies, but I don't remember going, wow, that cinematography is terrible. cinematography in this movie was pretty damn good, and he did the cinematography for it. So maybe he's just a better DP than he is a director. Which is fine.
It will be written on his grave. I directed Murdercycle and DP'd Roadhouse 2.
Oh my God.
Oh Lord. Well, hey, somebody had a DP Roadhouse 2.
The list of sequels that shouldn't have been named. There needs to be a podcast that like goes into horrible sequels, and that's all they talk about. It's just horrible sequels.
I'm sure there is one somewhere or something.
I do one myself.
Do
one
you?
One of the many shows on Cinema Degeneration is I do call Sequel 2 Deja Vu. We flip-flop from one episode to the next. We do a sequel that was really, really good to one that was really, really horrible. Like we did Child 2, from the standpoint of being a really, really good sequel, and did Halloween Resurrection from the standpoint of being a really bad sequel.
You know what? I have not seen Halloween Resurrection since I watched it in the theater by myself. By the way, I was the only one there. It's Halloween too. I was literally the only one.
So something.
Yeah. Well, it was playing at a second-rate theater. Not even like the main theater or whatever. I think it already played. At the theaters. So I went to the second-rate theater and just was like, all right, I'm so excited to watch Halloween Resurrection, and then like literally the only one there. So I'm like, okay, well, this kind of sucks.
Stretch out on these seats here.
And they screwed up the thing, so they had to replay it after like a few, whatever. So I'm like, oh no.
Restart it?
What?
They had to restart the movie?
Yeah, they had to restart the movie after like 20 minutes or something. And so I'm like, to watch 20 minutes over again. that's the problem with
the entirety of Jamie Lee's performance
twice over. Yeah, which sucked because I didn't want her to die at all anyway, so that's a terrible thing. But anyway, that movie, I would not want to talk about that movie. I'm
not sure if we can curse here.
Well, you can curse
a few times, but we tore that movie a new asshole. me and my buddy Dave. We I don't even remember what we rated it. I think I gave it a 1.5 out of
10. About 10, Jesus.
Like maybe a 2. I'm just like, okay, they made a movie, they finished it, they have a completed film, so I gotta at least give it a 1. And it is a Halloween movie, so I'm like, okay, I'll give it a 2, and that's like it. That's like the only redeeming value. When your idea of exposition and good action is Busta Rhymes going trick or treat, motherfucker. That's the best that you can do.
On Indie Film Cafe, we've only had like 110 plus so far, which I feel like we should have had more than that, but like. Where it was so bad, like we wish we could have given it like a 50, and that was I think it was last season's Miss Werewolf, and it was just awful. It's 2.5 hours long.
Or was it Weed Wolf?
No, that was a 10, right? We all gave that a 10, I think.
That was. Oh God, I can never get that out of my brain, but at the same time, I don't remember a lot of it. It's almost like I have PTSD from that movie. It's like, I
couldn't finish.
Oh, I think it took Jonathan a couple of days and took me a couple of days to get through. We were like,
well, I warned her too. Like I messaged Joe and I was like, just so you know, this movie is really rough and is hard to like. I had to like. It can't be sat through one viewing, I
was like, no problem. And I was like, oh my God, what did he do to me?
It wasn't me, man. It was Paul. Paul picked that one. I'm sorry. But I'm going to get Paul back because I'm going to make him watch Alabama Sasquatch, which is by the same people. And
I think we talked about that last time.
And I think
come back, I have a movie for you, Curse of the Were-Rooster.
I think Paul has reviewed that before. I don't know, for like Quick Review Thursday or something. But
that's a 10 on the stinky scale, man.
Is it? I gotta talk to him about that. I gotta see his review of it because I'm interested in that. Llamageddon wasn't very good.
I love the Llamageddon. Again with
I thought it was okay. It wasn't bad. It wasn't like a bad movie. It just wasn't.
It was intentionally bad. Like when you got one of the two main characters changes his shirt about 47 times, sometimes several times in one scene. They were deliberately trying to make a bad movie.
Oh, I know, but like sometimes when you deliberately make a bad movie, you kind of make a meh movie in the process. To me, you know what I
those
mean?
people had? They had a house with a hot tub. They had a guy that had a helicopter, and they had a guy that had a llama, and they're like, let's make a movie.
Isn't that like what Robert Rodriguez said about, like, if you have a turtle, we had a camera and and a suitcase, we're just going to make a whole movie out of that, or whatever.
We have El Mariachi.
That's how El Mariachi came to be. He was, that's great. Like, look, and Murdercycle, we have but yeah, I guess Full Moon, they have a bigger budget than like most indie filmmakers have, they could, even though, this movie felt like it was like, okay, we have like, we have $2,000 left out of the last budget that we had. Let's see what we can scrape together with this, or whatever,
We need a tax.
What was that?
Like, we need a tax write-off somewhere.
We have a budget surplus. If we don't spend this money, we got to give it back to the producers. Let's make a movie.
Yeah.
What idea do you have? Killer motorcycle. Fuck. Go for it. Do we have a motorcycle? No.
What do we need a motorcycle for? It's called Murdercycle. We'll figure something out. Though I do like some of the other stuff they did back in the early 90s, because like I said, I think the late 90s is when they started kind of getting it started getting rougher, and then all of a sudden when they made in the mid 2000s, when they made Ginger Dead Man and Evil Bong, they were just like, fuck it, we're just gonna make something goofy and fun, and not care anymore.
Fun again. I think that for a while, late 90s and the early aughts, as they call it, just things dried up and got to be, the budgets got to be too thin to have any fun with it.
Well, I hate to say this, but I think I blame sort of the way that horror films and sci-fi films were going at that time. If you think about it, 99 was like the era of Scream and that stuff, so those movies were like more popular than anything that, Blair Witch. Actually, Blair Witch didn't even come till 99. So this was about the time that right before Blair Witch kind of blew up. So had Blair Witch blew up before this, they probably would have made this all on, shot on steady, on a camera like this and running around like a found footage film or whatever, found footage Murdercycle movie, which now I kind of want to see.
I can't believe I just said that. Can't believe I just said need a found Murdercycle movie. Somebody shoot me.
That would be the sequel, Murdercycle 2, the found footage version.
Oh God.
Murdercycle 2, the Murdercycle Witch Project.
Like they have this, and then they download everything that he saw during the whole spiel.
And you can, how does that work with the chick with the psychic powers and stuff? Like,
oh my God, I see everything in the future. I have 3 seconds.
Yeah, she turns the camera around her like, oh my God, I just read his mind.
Scared. I'm scared. I'm so scared.
I'm so
Murdercycle with a GoPro camera on top of it.
Dude,
yeah, but they got it back in time, so they got to put one of those big old the ones that held the VHS tapes on it.
Yeah,
like the big heavy ones, and they've got to duct tape the shit out of it on there.
That would be 99 for you,
And again, I'd watch it.
I probably would too. I don't know if I'd like it, but I'd watch it. No, I'm not a huge Blair Witch fan either, so I don't like found footage. But I still watch those things from time to time because I just keep hoping, just like zombie movies. I don't like zombie movies, but I just keep hoping that there's going to be a zombie movie that just really just takes my breath away and makes me love zombie movies.
20 years later, you don't like the franchise?
I tried. I can't get into movies where all it is like a guy running around biting you. Like, I don't know. It's not my thing. Like, I like, most of the time, most of the time you can outrun these guys or whatever, like, and then somehow or another they catch up to you. And the worst ones are when the people run and they like think they're away, but like 2 seconds later, the person has caught up to them and just like it was behind them. And I'm just like, okay,
it's like no matter how fast you run, they walk faster.
Yeah. And that's like that's like a joke or something. People talk about that all the time, how jokey that is. And I'm just like, I like comedies, with zombies in them, like if you take yourself seriously making a zombie movie, there's something sort of wrong about that, because it's like, except for Night of the Living Dead, which I will say is probably the best zombie movie. I couldn't even get into Dawn of the Dead because I was like, this is just Night of the Living Dead in a mall,
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I walked through that mall with some of my friends after a convention up in Pennsylvania, and I was just like, I had nothing, like they were all running around going, oh my God, this is so cool. I'm going down this area, taking these pictures, and I'm like going, want
to go to Cinnabon?
Yeah. I was like, cool, there's actually a mall still alive.
Let's go to the Cinnabon. I think the zombies are still working there.
Yeah.
And the zombies are literally guys who are just either drugged out or hungover. Like, what do you want? That would be a Dawn of the Dead movie I would watch. If it's just literally people that are just hungover and people think they're zombies, that would be funny. Like I'd be down with that. Like,
right idea there.
See, there you go. Giving everybody other than me ideas. I would not make that. I just don't do zombies. I'm not really a zombie guy. But if you guys make that movie or somebody makes that movie, I'd bring the popcorn and I'd watch it because I'd be down with that. But I'm not a zombie guy. But
hey, I still like you.
Oh, that's fine. Everybody. I'm not even a Rob.
I'm not found footage movies though. I with found footage movies and zombie movies. I like them both. I like both genres a lot, but I like good zombie movies and good found footage movies. They're just few far and in between to find. You know what I mean? It's like most of the time they're just clones of stuff that have come before. They're just Walking Dead clones or Blair Witch Project clones. I want to see something original.
We did Abraham Lincoln vs. Zombies for Blu-ray or for Blue Cheese. I think that's what it was, the one we did for. And it was so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous because after a while, it felt like Walking Dead. It's like we're stuck in this bunker and we look out and there's just people walking around. Worst part about it is the zombies slept.
Slept?
I Am Legend.
What?
Kind of like I Am Legend.
Did they sleep in I Am Legend?
Kind of like did this weird resty thing. Like they're like in a little horde.
Yeah, they kind of like hibernated or something like that.
Something weird like that. They weren't active. They were like stationary.
Yeah, so these things would just like literally just go like that, and you could just walk past them, right? And the whole point was don't make any noise or you'll wake them up, But then somehow or another they got woke up some other way or whatever that, they didn't do anything. And so they kind of just contradicted a lot of like their own stuff or whatever. I almost felt like because I know the Asylum. Like I worked with them on Collision Earth, and I love them to death. And I think they're so fantastic. I mean, just every time I watch their movies, I just love them. But the problem is like, sometimes they like run into plot holes or issues in the script already, like because the scripts are being written pretty quickly. That they'll start making things up as they go along to fix it, and I think that might have been the problem, and I don't know.
Right, goes into a corner.
Yeah.
I was watching an Asylum movie just last night. I think what we were watching, Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus.
Oh God.
That's actually not a bad one, compared to like watch Mega Shark versus Colossus and you'll see a colossal difference.
That one too. That one's even worse.
Yeah, that one's the worst.
Mega Shark versus Crocosaurus had Urkel in it, for crying out loud.
Urkel.
I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, Urkel's in the movie, man. He's freaking awesome. I was happy to see him in that. I know too much about the Asylum. I know that one of the guys who produced it actually directed a movie that had Urkel in it and a bunch of other. I think it was Urkel. I know Dustin Diamond was in it and a bunch of other people like that. But it was called Jane White is Sick and Twisted. It's a really good movie. It's really good. Like if you're into like 90s sitcoms and stuff, that is the movie to watch. I think it's on Tubi, if I'm correct. And it's definitely worth it. It's called Jane White is Sick and Twisted. It's about a chick named Jane White who is sick and twisted. She's into like all the television, all the 90s stuff. And then she comes across people, from those movies or from those shows, but like not as them, as characters in her like day-to-day life. It's pretty good movie. I liked it. But it's a good indie flick, and it was the one that got me into the Asylum, because it was produced by the guy directed by the guy who produces the Asylum. So there you go. So I guess that's about. Is there anything else we did not touch upon on Murdercycle?
Oh.
I know we talked about other shit, but that happens in every one of my shows. So that's my ADHD.
Oh, that's the way my shows go too. We spend half the time talking about the movie, the other time talking about other movies.
It happens. I'm sure Joe does that shit all the time too. Just
my squirrel moments.
Yeah, I don't know. There's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of, they would say some movies have, it's style over substance. This movie doesn't really have a whole lot of style and doesn't have a whole lot of substance to it too. I think the highlight for me is just the Murdercycle itself. I kind of want that parked in my garage just as a prop and be like, what's that? That's my Murdercycle.
That would be pretty cool.
It'd be a neat conversation piece. Be like, oh, let's go have a cocktail or a cup of coffee. And like, what's that? That's my Murdercycle. Yes, yes.
You can probably make one out of an old BMX bike or something with like the fat tires.
Yeah, you're right. A little or a Vespa, Murder Vespa. There you go.
A murder, dude. There's your movie. Idea. see if the
rubber, Murder Vespa and killer tires.
Speaking of which, last year my buddy Jason and I did a movie that we reviewed a movie called Super Hybrid. Have you did you see that?
The car that runs off of the engines run off of blood.
Yeah, it's like got like some kind of like creature in the trunk or whatever, and it kills everybody by which I mean is not the most original idea. There's like Christine and all these other things that are very similar, but it was fun. But like I guess that's pretty cool that we did last year. We did one that was kind of a hybrid whatever car, and then this one we're doing a Murdercycle.
I do have one question. Did anybody else find it odd that the alien didn't talk until about 10 minutes before the end?
That is weird.
the alien, the guy that melted into the car, not into the car, but the motorcycle. I thought that was odd. It's like they could have even voiceovered it and had him talking throughout the whole thing, but it's like he didn't even pop up and say anything until like 10 minutes for the end.
Yes.
It's like I don't know, like they were shooting as they went, and they were like, wouldn't it be cool if they fucking talked, and they're like, that would be pretty cool, have it say, I forgot what it was. It was like telling them about what it was like, its plan. Like, I think they only did that for the like
total James Bond moment.
Pretty much, but it was also like, wasn't it saying basically what, giving you like what its like purpose was, right? Which basically is exposition that we sort of needed, I guess, but like
closure at the end.
Yeah. So the car's telling you all this shit, or the Murdercycle. Wouldn't the Murdercycle just like from the very beginning be like, "Hey, fuckers, I'm gonna like shoot you guys all down," Prepare to die. And how does it speak English?
Well, it even had that expositional moment when it's just like, it's taken me this long to repair myself, and it's like, you've now I can communicate with you, and it's just like, okay, somebody wrote that into the script, and it's just like, we're just gonna like say it took me this long. It just okay, there we go, we're done.
There you go, Benjamin Carr. That was you, wasn't it? Benjamin Carr was the writer of this movie. He did. He's done a ton of like the '90s and early 2000 full moon movies and stuff. I actually always love when he pops up, because it was either him or Matthew Jason Walsh, and I used to be friends with Matt. Well, I'm still friends with him, but I haven't talked to him in forever. Matthew Jason Walsh, both of those guys are just fantastic, and I love whenever their names pop up on these things. I'm like, oh my god, we're in for a treat, because it's gonna be something silly, and Benjamin is normally a little bit more funny, so I think like the only comedy being like the Fantastic Four stuff that he talked about. The rest, it became too serious. I think I don't know if he was told to scale it back or something.
Yeah.
Probably
had to scale it back, because at the end they had to do that Death Star explosion when the thing blows up, and that was everything was spent on that moment.
That's true.
Well, I got that, boys.
All right, are you guys ready to do our stinkometer scores?
Oh, let's do it.
All right.
Here, let's do the stinkometer.
Okay, so for those, I did kind of explain it earlier, but for those who forgot or missed out on it, we do a stinkometer score, which is basically a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being very good, excellent, best movie in the world kind of thing, you'd watch it over and over again, and 10 being a big pile of stink. You can also do 0.5, like 5.5, 6.5. If you can't, if you're like, oh, it's kind of between 5 and 6, I'll do a 5.5, or whatever, in my head. But so I'm gonna let you guys go first. So Cameron, let me let you go first.
I don't remember what I rated this on my show, but we do a totally different kind of rating. But yeah. I don't know. I found it kind of somewhere in the fair to middling category. It's not a 10 and it's not a 1. I'm gonna have to give it a 5. I would say it's moderately stinky, because it's still a fun movie. It's not a fun movie. It's not a chore to get through. It's awfully short. It's not a long movie. It's not like the Batman where it's 3 hours long. But,
thank God. I don't think I could watch a 3-hour long Murdercycle movie. I would be so bored.
The way Full Moon makes movies, if it was a 3-hour movie, they'd have 3 movies. They would just tack on a bunch of credits on. But I would give it a 5. It's moderately stinking. It's it has good sound. The cinematography is good. The location is really neat. I think the location where they filmed it in like in an old west kind of town. Like a it was a ranch of some sort. So I like the locations. I like the cinematography. So yeah, moderately stinky. I give it a 5.
All right. What about you, Joe?
I'm with Cameron on this one. I'll give it a 5. It wasn't horrible. It had its moments where it just kind of drug out, but I do feel that the movie has a lot of potential to be a better movie. Mm-hmm. Like, cleaned up some of the plot holes, like you said, put some more comedy in there. I feel it just has the potential to be a better movie than what it is. So
nice. Interesting. I was gonna give it a 6, and that's what I'm gonna stay at. It's not meh enough, like, for me, like, it's not I feel like it deserves, like, it's still stinky. It's got a good amount of stink to it. That I originally thought 7, and then I was like, nah, that's too high. That's too mean. I think 6 is good. 5's a good deal too. Like, I could admit that, but just like, to me, I'm sorry, it's just been a little bit stinkier for that. Just, I don't know. Maybe if they didn't, it seemed almost rushed a lot. And I feel like if they took a little bit more time and, like, worked on the story, I feel like it would have been a little bit more fun.
I mean, it's not like a sack of hot garbage, hot vomit stinky, but it's like, ooh, this is some fast food left out in the sun in your car for a couple of days stinky.
Well, and the funny thing is, I could watch this over and over again. I could, not usually I don't think I'd put this on by myself. I wouldn't be like, you know what I want to do today? Watch Murdercycle. But I would if, like, somebody wanted to watch it, like, I could sit through it again,
I'm the opposite. I would put it on while nobody else is around, because this is the type of movie that I'd like clean house to, or cook dinner to, you know what I mean? Or write to, something that I really don't have to pay a lot of attention to,
Yeah, I sort of agree, but there's so many other movies I choose over this. I'm sorry, like, like, to do that, because it's just, like, Princess Bride. As much as I love it to death, I put that on when I'm doing, work and stuff, because I know every line of that movie, and everything. This, I won't remember jack. All I remember is him talking about the guy being Mr. Fantastic. That's the only thing, and that's only because I'm, like, so freaking going crazy right now, wondering. And by the time that this comes out in October, because this is 31 days, so this is Halloween. When this comes out in October, this episode, I'm guaranteeing you will hopefully know by then who the fuck is the new Mr. Fantastic by then. Because they're going to do the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse Madness, and then all the other.
By this time next month, we'll know. I mean, at least for Doctor Strange,
Oh yeah, an actual real month. Okay, yeah, we'll know something. We'll know a little bit more, but I don't know if we'll know who the next Fantastic Four is cast, or whatever. But this movie made me get excited thinking about that. I'm like, ooh, and it, like,
come on, don't front with us, John. You got cast as Mr. Fantastic. You just ain't. You just can't tell us.
I mean, I could say I didn't, but, like, what is it? What's his name? But I always say Andrew Garfield. We kept going. I'm not something. He would fuck. I had it in my head. He would say he was, he wasn't the guy,
that he wasn't in was it No Way Home?
Yeah, he wasn't in No Way Home. Yeah, he kept saying, no, I'm not in that movie and stuff, and nobody believed him, and we were right. He was in No Way Home. Spoiler alert. But if you haven't seen that movie yet, sorry, Joe, if you haven't seen that movie yet, but
it's cool.
I think
fan.
You're more of a what?
More of a DC fan.
All right, you're gone. We're gonna have to cut you off now.
My type of person, Joe. I'm more of a DC person myself.
Oh Lord, why am I filled with, like, DC people? Like, Oh man, I gotta hang out with more Marvel people. But anyway, no, I love both. I'm more of a Marvel guy, than a DC.
I kind of like it all. You know what I'd like to see more of? I'd like to see more of the Image Comics stuff and get adapted, like Spawn and some more adaptations like that.
Yeah, I'd love to see more like Dark Horse and other stuff too. Like I'd love to see other labels starting to really branch out and get out there or whatever. But
it'd be nice to see some Dark Horse stuff or even some Dynamite comics. Some of those lines getting made.
Yep, they will. I'm sure. I mean, they get made all the time, and I don't even realize that they're based on a comic or whatever. For the longest time, I didn't know Scott Pilgrim was based on a manga. I didn't know that, but watched the movie, thought it was amazing. So there you go. Well, thank you two for coming on the show. This has been awesome, and I really appreciate it. And so you both have podcasts. Let's promote them real quick. Joe, tell us a little bit about your podcast.
I run a horror themed podcast called Any Last Words. I range between modern horror, but I try to focus on indie horror. It's a little bit of a variety show. We do a lot of like random cooking and games and such and sorts. It's fun. It's a fun time.
And yours is like live, right?
It's live off and on. Right now it's pre-recorded because schedule is hectic, so I kind of have to do pre-recorded on my off days.
Oh, I get that. Trust me. We have to pre-record everything. We're pre-recording this literally. What is it right now? It is April, and I can't even remember what month it is, honestly. But it is April, and this will be out in October. So I mean, we get it. How about you, Cameron? Tell us about your podcast.
Well, I run several. I actually have 9 running podcasts right now because I'm retired. So I have oodles of time on my hands. But if you want to find any of them, we got a Facebook page. We are on Instagram. It's called Cinema Degeneration. We have several shows. Like I said, 9 of them just premiered a new one called Without Warning. Got a couple, one we do on Grindhouse Films, one we do on the Howling at the Full Moon, where we do full moon movies, the sequel show. Actually have one where I do nothing but specifically Nicolas Cage films.
Oh, for what? Just kidding.
But yeah, we do a little bit of everything. I just have oodles of time on my hands now that I'm retired. But you can find us anywhere you find your podcast. Just look for Cinema Degeneration and you will find us anywhere. Just released a new show today for Takeout Edition, which is a foreign films podcast that I do with my friend Tom Berdinsky. And
nice.
Just did The Psychic, which is a Fulci film, our first Fulci film of the year.
So, nice.
Yep. Look up Cinema Degeneration. You can find them anywhere fine podcasts are sold.
Awesome. That's great. So I love it that you guys both have different podcasts and you guys have different stuff going on. That's sort of what
on the show sometime. I've had a lot of fun doing this, and I've been meaning to have you on for a long time, John. And I usually think about it. I don't think about it until times like like now when I'm just like, oh shit, like yeah, I should probably have him on. It's been
and it's been one of those things where I don't like to just like ask to be on somebody's show. Like I'm like people are like, why don't you go ask people to be on their shows? And I'm like, I feel like it's weird, like I mean, other people will say something to me, maybe like or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to have you on the show or whatever. But like, I'm very weird about like I don't want to go up to people and be like, hey, can I come on your podcast? Like I'll write something on Facebook saying, hey, if anybody's got a podcast and want to have me on there, it's great. But I'm not gonna like go up to like be like, Joe, can I be on your podcast? Or Cameron, can I be? I don't do that. I like if somebody wants to have me on, they'll have me on. Kind of thing.
It just feels weird. It feels like begging if you just like, please let me come on your podcast. I figure if people want me on their show, they'll ask me.
Yeah.
Like, crush on your couch, man.
Got a beer? You gotta get on the couch, crash for 3 days.
Exactly. That's what it feels like. And I don't like to do that. So I don't ask, but if people are like, hey, like somebody asked me to go on and I don't think I can make it tomorrow for their podcast, but they did not actually hit me up anyway. So I am going to message them and say, I don't think I can make it, but, if we can do it another time,
I was
that's,
asked 2 days ago, but I just started getting my voice back like a day or two ago. And I was just like, I don't want to sound like this on a show, cough 50 times in 30 minutes.
yeah, I actually caught you on a good time because I think we were supposed to do this before. And then the co-host I was going to have was too afraid to do it because like she's got a family and she's just got too much going on at the house, and I said, okay,
I can appreciate that,
yeah, like I was like, because she just didn't think it would be she thought it was gonna not be too quiet, or whatever, enough. I just got, and so I was like, Joe, let's see if Joe can come on. And Joe is always down for most of the stuff, We'll have to get you back on, Joe, for like 80s horror films, which we just had Cameron on again for that.
Oh yeah, 84 is my jam.
Puppet Master. So we did another fucking full moon.
I love Puppet Master. I love the Phantasm movies. I haven't seen Phantasm in forever. Warlock. I haven't seen that one in forever either, but I remember
noticed over my shoulder right about here, signed Phantasm.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, it's actually signed. You can't see it from here, but right about, I'm looking at right here is the signature from Reggie and Angus.
You just put your finger up their nose, but all right.
Yeah, well, I can do that now.
Up the tall man's nose. There you go.
Phantasm.
I met both of those guys at the conventions and stuff, and Reggie is sweet as hell. Angus was fucking sweet, but like I didn't really know him, so I didn't get a picture with him. But my friend did, and I got to take the picture, and then he passed away, like not much after that. And I was kicking myself, like, why didn't I just, even though if I didn't know him, still said, hey, do you mind if I get a picture with you too? Like, I don't know why you don't do that. But if I don't know people, I just feel stupid asking for a picture, with them. Now it feels stupid that I didn't.
Angus would have been more than accommodating. I met him.
Oh yeah.
For the first time when I was like 16 or 17 at one of the first conventions I went to. And then I met him several times over the years. And actually at the very second to last convention he ever did, which was the Days of the Dead show. And then, and he did a reading. I can't remember. He did a Edgar Allan Poe poem that he just recited when he was doing a Q&A. And it was just such a beautiful experience. The man was so eloquent and just, He was so scary on screen, but such a nice, eloquent, sweet, soft-spoken man when you got him just talking. Such a nice fella.
He was in the original Subspecies, another full moon movie. So there's all the connection, bringing it all back to the show. So thank you guys so much. If you guys want to stick around for a second, that's great. Everybody else, thank you guys for checking this show out. Check out their shows and everything. Joe, how can people follow your show?
On YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, under Any Last Words, or Any Last Words Joe, J-O, because some other assholes took Any Last Words. So yeah.
Sons of bitches.
Some of the bitches.
Those assholes. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. And everybody else, thank you guys for checking this out. And join me tomorrow for another episode of 31 Days of Indie Horror. Bye, guys.
Bye.